Hello and welcome to Liberty Nation TV. I'm your host Mark Angelides. Today we're joined by Legal Affairs Editor, Man About Town, Mr. Scott D. Cosenza, Esquire. Glad to have you on board, Scott.
Cheers, Mark.
And it's on everybody's lips. RBG, what's happening? Really, this is taking up, in my opinion, far too much newspapers, column inches at the moment. But it is a big deal. So to help us unravel this a little bit, this is why Scott's here. So Scott, can you give us the latest news on Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg's health, please?
Well, I am an attorney, Mark, but I'm not a medical doctor. So while I will give you my analysis, it's from that perspective. She was treated for cancer in New York City on basically a sort of like an inpatient, outpatient basis over a week or so earlier in August. And they released that information about her health. She had this is her second sort of time being treated with cancer now in this year. And the speculation runs rampant with, I think, fear and trepidation on both sides, and perhaps a little schadenfreude of hope on the side of people who dislike Ms. Ginsburg's jurisprudence and wish to see her replaced. But in any case, everyone's a bit walking on eggshells over what's going to happen next.
I mean, this is clearly, it's a big deal in terms of how long her health will allow her to continue serving on the Supreme Court. I mean, will this affect her appearances for the upcoming term?
We have every indication that it will not affect her appearance on the upcoming term. She is so idealistic and strident in her progressivism that she refused to resign under the Obama administration so that a younger justice could be appointed in her stead, because she thought they would be insufficiently radical. In other words, that Obama would have to appoint a moderate judge. And by the way, Merrick Garland was a fairly moderate pick. So she could not abide that, and that's why she hung on. And of course now, as the case may be, she may have to leave the court, whether she chooses to or not, under a much worse case for her ideology, which is the Trump administration. But to loop back around and finally answer your question, no, she's going to be there no matter what. And the other thing that's important to remember is, unlike the Congress or even the presidency, where there are more strict rules for the formality of how, for Congress, how a bill becomes a law, that's very formalized. How the Supreme Court does its judging is not formalized. And if the Chief Justice wants to make accommodations for an Associate Justice, which is her title, he's able to do so. So I would expect that if her health is somewhat impinged on, we would see less of her at the court. But I expect that she will be absolutely issuing rulings until she's no longer physically able to do so.
So Scott, this next question may come a little from further afield, but did David Koch actually save her?
You know, it's a bit of an inconvenient truth, Mark, but David Koch took about $150 million and gave it to the Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Institute. And it may be the case that she's walking around longer than she otherwise would be as a direct result of the generosity, the philanthropy of billionaire David Koch. Rest in peace.
So, Scott, there's clearly an element of quality in terms of what each justice brings to the court. Why is it that Ruth Bader Ginsburg's position is such a news-filled and such a gripping event for some people?
Mark, I don't know if you saw the David Axelrod tweet, but upon the news that Justice Ginsburg was being treated for this cancer, he said that her vacancy could tear this country apart. And the reason why it's so important is twofold. Number one, and most importantly, she is a sort of a key swing vote, or that vote, meaning in 5-4 swings, right? So many of these important cases that the court deals with in terms of the daily lives of Americans, whether it's abortion or who gets to have a cake baked for them or not, are 5-4 decisions. And if she leaves her chambers, whether it's voluntarily through resignation or through death, and that appointment comes from a Trump a White House, her replacement, well then all those 5-4s would seem to become likely to be 6-3s, and that is untenable for so many on the left, especially when so many more of our the rules about how we live life are decided not through democratic processes, but through a ruling by the Supreme Court. So that's the big reason. And the other is she has established some kind of like a hero type status among the progressive left, and especially the sort of feminist type progressive left, for her stalwart defense of abortion rights. And so that's sort of an emotional attachment as well. And to see her replaced with a person who likely, if Trump would keep his word, acts in opposition to the expression of those rights, or tries to write them out of the law, like some future justice might. Well, that's responsible for the level of tension and emotion over her.
Well, I expect we'll have Justice Ginsburg around for a while. She really has become quite the industry. I'm sure you've noticed we've had movies, we have action figures. I don't know if you've seen those yet.
Oh yes, Mark, the bobbleheads, and I think that it's important to say that while I abhor, I think it's fair to say, Justice Ginsburg's jurisprudence and disagree with her 100%. We can disagree without wishing for the death of people. I don't know if you saw the Bill Maher clip where he celebrated the death of David Koch because David Koch was involved in the petrochemical industry. Now, it's somewhat confusing because Bill Maher flies across the country to do his comedy shows. He consumes fossil fuels for his luxurious residence, I'm sure, and yet David Koch, who supported gay marriage before Bill Maher ever did, who supported decriminalization of marijuana, by the way, Bill Maher, you might want to write a thank you letter to the estate of David Koch for the things that he's brought forth. But Maher wished and applauded his death. And in any case, I hope for all of us who disagree with Ms. Ginsburg's jurisprudence, we can do so without cheering on her ill health.
Thank you, Scott. And on those words, we'll leave you to it. Thank you for your insight, your opinions on this, Scott. Very much appreciated.
Thanks, Mark.
And to you at home, thanks again for watching. We do it all for you. If you enjoyed this content, like and subscribe down below, or head over to libertynation.com, where we've got a range of podcasts, radio shows, more TV like this, and of course, our articles. Well written, well thought out, beautifully written articles, all from a conservatarian perspective. Until next time, thanks for watching.